podcast. Happy New Year. This is our first episode of 2025. 2024 is in the books. I'm your host, Phil. And as always, with me, my trusty co host, the best and fastest researcher in the West, Camille. Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm good, but who are you? Like I haven't
Yeah, I,
seen you since
I was
last
like,
year. I'm
right
sorry.
before the show, it's like, what is this thing? Do I press buttons? I don't know how to work any of this stuff. What
No, it's
is this?
on a computer. I don't.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. Like 2 weeks is a long time.
Well,
Sometimes when we take like a week off,
two
it
weeks
seems like a long time.
off. It's been like 3 weeks, and of course, then you go through all the holidays, which just feels long anyway. And then the new,
Mhm.
like. So I'm sorry to make that cliche joke. I haven't seen you since last year, but seriously, like,
Technically,
doesn't it feel like it's been
it feels like it's been a long time.
a long time?
But here we are. We are talking about everything that's going into effect in 2025. Because if there's one thing California is good at, it is passing an obnoxiously gross amount of new laws.
There's a
Something like 1,100. I was talking to some people at work today, and I was like, "Did you know that they passed 1,100 new laws just for this year?" And they were like shocked, like 1,100. Like, what is? I can't even fathom 1,100 laws being passed. And that's like regular. Like every year we pass that many laws in
Of course, a
California.
lot of it is like we named a highway. This
Yeah,
this park is now dedicated to this person. But
yeah. We named a official milkshake of California. It's a date shake. Um, the
that's
banana slug is the official. Oh no, that one actually didn't happen. The banana slug, I
oh,
think,
did
didn't
that
make
not
it.
go through? Poor banana slugs. Just
Banana slug didn't go through.
great.
Sorry, banana slug. You'll have to try again this year. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of laws that go through that you're like, which we're gonna get into tonight, and we're only gonna like scratch the surface of the ones that are probably the most notable. But before we get started, yesterday, on a solemn note, yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of the worst terrorist attack on American soil ever.
Some people are celebrating as like the fourth birthday of, of the best things that's happened since the 1700s to America.
It's a contentious day in American history from here on out. I think it will always be a contentious day
Yes.
in American history. But yesterday was January 6th. Nothing happened. The election was certified with, no excitement or anything like that.
I
Um,
almost feel like the news tried not to talk about
yeah, I mean,
it.
people online talked about it. X talked about it. Um, People still make it out to be the scariest day that ever happened to them. Like our cringe moment of the week, which involves Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. Now, if you don't know who Sarah Jacobs is, she is a congresswoman from down here in San Diego. Um, I can't remember what district she was running against Bill Wells, who we had on. She is the granddaughter of the family that started Qualcomm. Um, so if that gives you any idea of like what life she has lived, uh, probably not a hard life. She has been very privileged, the granddaughter of multi-billionaires. And yeah, she recorded a video about her thoughts reflecting back on January 6, 2021. So this
Okay.
is our cringe moment of the week. First one of 2025. Don't forget the stinger.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Good to hear from you again, Kamala. By the way, did you watch the Kamala like when she had to read her name as the loser?
I
That
didn't
must have been.
watch it exactly. Like I saw people sharing clips, and I never turned on the volume or anything. But,
It was, she was. It looked like she was dying a little bit on the
oh,
inside.
I'm sure she was.
It's got to be rough to announce to a joint session of Congress like your name is the loser. But anyway, here's Sarah Jacobs talking about her experience on January 6th. We'll comment afterwards.
I'm Sarah Jacobs, a United States Congresswoman and an expert in international conflict resolution. Let me tell you what happened on January 6th, 2021. I was elected in 2020, which means January 6th was my fourth day in office. I was so honored to be one of the people chosen to sit in the gallery to watch certification proceedings of the 2020 election. And then everything changed. I started getting text messages from people worried about where I was, buildings being evacuated. Eventually, Capitol Police told us to hide under our seats and get ready to put our gas masks on. I literally was introducing myself to my new colleagues while hiding under my seat. I remember them saying that there was tear gas in the rotunda. We could hear the insurrectionists getting closer and closer and eventually getting all the way to the doors right behind us. It was incredibly, incredibly scary and the closest I have ever felt to feeling like I was going to lose my life. And I have worked in some pretty scary places. I later learned that it was only 30 seconds from when Annie Custer pulled me across a hallway to when the insurrectionists got there.
All three of them calmly walking down the hallway.
Walking.
All three.
Look how they're just like that is like an invasion if I've ever seen one.
Wow, that is the mad hordes coming down the hallway. All three of them just sauntering down the hallway.
30 seconds. That's how close our democracy came.
That's how close our democracy came. Those three guys walking down the hall. That was how close our democracy came to ending on January 6th. Those three guys slowly walking down the hall.
I'm so incredibly grateful to Capitol Police, DC Metro Police, who worked tirelessly to protect us, who were willing to give their lives to protect us, who came to work every day after, still working to protect us, even though some of my colleagues won't even acknowledge the trauma and the harm that were caused to them. And I am so grateful that even today, as we go on to this ceremony, once again, Capitol Police officers are here, standing guard, ready to protect us from whatever happens. Here's what I know. No matter what people might say, we can never forget what happened on January 6, 2021. I know that given my experience working in international conflict resolution, that accountability is one of the most important things we can do, and not just of those who actually committed the violence, but those who incited and encouraged it at the top as well. And I know that we're never truly going to be able to heal and move on if we don't actually heal the deep wounds in our society that we've never really recognized or addressed, and have a real national conversation about what it means to be an American and how we all want to move forward together, recognizing both the gory and the glory of our past. So as we head into this next January 6th, as I am on my way to the floor to certify this election, I'm feeling scared, honestly. I still have a lot of fear about what happened 4 years ago. I still can't handle loud fireworks, and if I ever hear the buzzing of a gas mask, it immediately takes me back. While our institutions were severely affected that day, they bent, but they didn't break. And now it's on all of us to work together to rebuild our institutions so that no matter what happens, no matter who is president, we have a democracy and a republic that we can pass on to future generations.
There's lots to unpack there.
Oh my.
Wow. So we have to, our systems bent but did not break under the weight of three guys sauntering down the hallway. She came 30 seconds from losing her life. We don't know what the intent of those guys walking down the hallway was. There were no murders committed by the insurrectionists or the people at January 6th. I also laugh out loud that she called herself an expert in international conflict resolution. I'm like, are you an expert at that? Or I feel like what's your actual experience with that? But yeah, that's Sarah Jacobs' traumatizing story about January 6th, and she still can't listen to fireworks because it just brings her back to that harrowing day of those guys walking down the hallway.
I feel like she basically said, I know Trump is about to be the president, but we should not accept him as the president because he incited violence. And if we're going to do this, we can't heal. Like, that's what I feel like she was basically saying.
Yeah. It was, I think it's funny how it's so funny how there are like two different worldviews of January 6th. And this isn't the point of today's show, but it's like those who can use it to create these videos and make themselves feel like martyrs about it, and those who like just are like, the other side, which is like, I don't know what you're talking about. This wasn't that big of a deal. Like, yeah, there was a lot of action stuff that happened, but it isn't as crazy as they're making it out to be. Like, they live in this fabricated world about what January 6th was, and it's not anywhere near what reality was. So, um, but
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of traumatizing for her to experience that when you've grown up, the granddaughter of a billionaire. You probably don't come into a lot of bad situations like that in Rancho Santa Fe or Rancho Bernardo, wherever she lives. So,
I do want to say, okay, you and I weren't there. Imagine you were there, you're in her position, and you're getting texts, and there is a bunch of unknown, and they're like, you need to do this because we're not sure what's going to happen. Yes, there would be fear. I don't want to discount that. Like,
mm,
I certainly would be like, oh my gosh, I have kids at home. Like, am I going to see them? Like, what's, there would be that initial fear for sure. And I don't want to discount that she didn't experience real fear and trauma. However,
mhm,
after the fact, she's just still using the what I was going through as if she's still going through that, and that's where that, like, bugs me. It's like,
yeah.
you're allowed to have a certain amount of PTSD, absolutely. Again, I'm not gonna take that away, but for her to be like, "I can't even hear fireworks," like, you were fine, and you probably knew you were fine within a matter of minutes, and I also understand in those situations, seconds can feel like hours and all the things that go through your head and all that, but after the fact and 4 years later, if she's actually that traumatized, I don't think that she would have run for Congress again twice, because this is her 3rd time being elected now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it would have to be her third time elected because, 2021, 2 years, and then 2 years. So, right. And she even says in the video, I still feel scared to go to this ceremony. Um, why would you put yourself through that situation? Like, you don't have to.
Yeah, I
I mean,
don't believe you have to be there.
you don't have to put yourself through that situation. But you're right. Yeah, I think in the moment, it's kind of like if in the moment something happened to you, like you hear a strange noise outside at night and you're like, oh, that's really scary. Like, what was that? Your adrenaline's running, you don't know what it is. Like all of a sudden your mind's racing of like what could be happening. And then you find out like a shovel got knocked over outside and that was it. Like, then you look back and you go, oh, that's kind of silly. Like, that wasn't, there wasn't like an intruder or someone lurking around our house to try and kill us. It like a shovel fell outside. So yeah, for them to kind of continue to still live in this worldview of it instead of just looking back and being like, okay, like I thought at that time it was bad, but looking back, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So maybe just reflect on that. But anyway, any final thoughts?
Well, can I share, like, I had an experience, okay, not like that, but I had an experience where it was like, I'm gonna actually sound crazy if I share this story, but I'll share it anyway. 6, 7, 8 years ago, I don't know. So my son, he's now 19, but so he was probably 11 or 12 when this happened, maybe 10. And he loved to go out and film trash trucks. And
Mhm,
we live in a pretty safe neighborhood, and then there's also lots of sidewalks and stuff. And I would allow him to go out and film. We homeschooled and stuff. Like, I was like, that's fine, but if I text you, if I call you, you need to answer, you need to respond, because if you don't, I'm going to think something's wrong, and then I'm going to come searching for you, and I'll be freaking out because I'm a parent.
mhm,
And one day he was not responding to me. He wasn't answering the phone. He wasn't responding to my text messages. And I tried to act really calm. Like, I was like, girls, we got to get in the car and go find Daniel. Something in me was like, something happened. Something's wrong. This is not good. Like, I just had this like feeling of like something is wrong. And so I'm like trying to act calm, but inwardly I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not, things are not okay. And so I load the girls up in the car and drive down to where I knew like the area that he was supposed to be in. And I'm trying to turn right. And there's this like crossing guard or like some guy that just kept going like, no, no, don't turn here, don't turn here. And I'm like, what the heck? And I turn and I see there's like a car accident and a car is upside down. And I just had the sinking feeling that my son had been hit. He was like, on his little scooter or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, he was hit. And I don't know why I thought this, but I already felt like something was off. He wasn't responding. And I like, there's fire trucks and there's ambulance. And I'm like, oh my God, it's my son. Like he's dead. He's under this car,
mhm,
whatever. And I pull over and I ask like a policeman or something. I'm like, I just need to know if there's a child involved in this accident. I'm looking for my son. He was over here. And they're like, oh, hold on, ma'am. Let me get you one of the firefighters. And I start crying. I'm like, oh my God. And I call my husband and I'm like, he's not answering his phone and they're getting a firefighter. And like, I'm bawling, literally bawling my eyes out because I'm convinced he's under this car and he's still not calling me back. And I'm like texting him like, Daniel, talk to me, like, I need to know you're okay. And then firefighters, like 3 of them came over and they start asking me questions. And I'm like, this is getting worse. Like they're trying to identify if this is my child or not. And then they finally are like, oh no, one lady was involved in this car accident and she's fine. There's no children involved in this car accident. And then my husband's like trying to talk to me and I'm like still bawling my eyes out. And he's like, Daniel's calling me. It's like, and he's like, okay, I answered, he's okay. And I'm like, it was like 5 minutes. And I was just like, my life is over. My son is dead. And it was traumatizing. It was absolutely traumatizing. And I'm like, and now all these people think I'm crazy. And I would think I'm crazy. I was literally crying. Like, and my girls are like, what the heck is going on? So anyway, he was fine. Totally fine. Not involved in that. Not even near it. He was like way down the street. But in that moment, yes, I was traumatized. And now I'm laughing about it.
Yeah, you're looking back on it now, going like, okay,
Big time.
a little bit, yeah. Like,
Big time.
and that's my point. Is like she's still sitting here going, as if that was what really happened. Like she keeps saying,
Right.
like it was 30 I was 30 seconds from dying by like us crossing that hallway when those guys walked up. But there's no evidence to show those guys were out to kill anybody, and like there was nothing to show. Like it wasn't like they're carrying like.
Was there even like a gas thing? Like, I understand why they would have them available, but was there even anything? Did they end up needing it? I don't even know.
I think any tear gas was probably outside, but yeah.
Anyway,
Sarah Jacobs. I don't know what to tell you.
Sarah Jacobs is crazy. I'm sorry.
You have your family has billions of dollars. If going to Congress and sitting in a joint session scares the crap out of you and traumatizes you, I have a feeling you could do a lot of other things with your life besides being in Congress. All right. Now on to the point of tonight's episode, which is to kind of go through all of these, well, not all the laws, but at least scratch the surface of some of the laws that are going into effect in 2025. I'm going to do a little bit of a lightning round to start off, and then we're going to talk more in depth about some of them that I think are a little bit more consequential or meaty to get into.
Okay.
Maybe you don't agree, but you can go look up these laws yourself and read about them. There's 1,100 of them. So this is from the OC Register. It says Gavin Newsom signed. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't 1,100. It's 1,017 bills into law.
Oh, okay.
That's just a tick more than 1/5 of the 4,821 bills introduced over that 2-year span. Okay, so first one, cannabis cafes, which we'll talk about in a little bit more in depth. That's a new thing, cannabis cafes. Child content creators, which I didn't know this was an issue, but thank God we have the busybodies up in Sacramento to tell us that this is an issue. Minors who make money by producing online content should get some extra financial protection as a result of 2 bills the governor signed this year. One expands the Coogan Act, a longtime California law that requires parents to open a trust and set aside at least 15% of their child actors' gross earnings. The new rules have been expanded to include kidfluencers, or as the bill describes them, child influences in paid online content or internet websites, social networks, and social media. It's part of the creative or artistic services that would trigger a Coogan Trust account. I don't know if you feel the same way. Something about this one creeps me out and gives me icky feelings to think like people are making money off child influencers online on social media.
I have a thought on that.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is correct, but here in California, we're like next to LA, child actors. And a lot of them Like, I remember growing up hearing stories of child actors who turned around and sued their parents because their parents would become their managers, but then basically take most of the funds for themselves. Like, as the manager, they were, and as the parent, they were basically like not necessarily saving their kids' earnings and taking them
Mhm.
for themselves. And then there was a lot of lawsuits resulting from that. And I wonder if this is kind of a similar thing that they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, I think that's what the Coogan Act is that it's been around for a while. I understand that. Yeah, there's definitely stories horrible, like Gary Coleman was one. Michael Jackson was probably another one. Like, there's a lot of child actors who are like, yeah, their parents slash managers took a lot of money from them and didn't do what they were supposed to do with it. I guess because everyone has access to social media, that makes it creepier to me to think like it's easier for parents to create child influencers. Like, they
Right.
can, that's where it creeps me
Exploiting
out is
children.
like, yeah, it's not like, oh, Michael Jackson is an incredible singer and talented and dancer and stuff like that. He's one in a million, one in
Yeah.
millions and millions of people. And he made it through the process and now he's super popular and they made money. Um, I feel like the thought that like this is such an issue that parents are putting their kids on social media and encouraging like them being child influencers or kid influencers or whatever they're calling them creeps me out because it's like now everyone can turn their kid into an influencer who makes money. Um, I guess that's what creeps me out, and
That
it
is
kind of
disgusting.
that might be a bigger question of like, should we have kid influencers online, like all these kids on social media that are public and like people can I don't know, it just creeps me out. If anyone's in the chat and wants to let me know your feeling about this, something about it, just the whole concept, I read it and I was like, this feels icky. Like, why are there kid influencers on social media? Just let kids be kids. Like, why are they worried about
Kids. And unrelated to that, I see, I have friends that are parents, and on Facebook, the things that they would share, it's like not everything is for social media. Your
Mhm.
kids are growing up in the age of social media, but someday, and now that day has come, someday they're going to be able to see your Facebook page and read the things that you put. And it's like, I like to share funny things. Now my kids are a little bit older, but I even just shared like a memory today of like 9 years ago of me being a horrible parent, basically, and a funny thing that my child did. But that, like, a lot of them will even tell stories about like their potty training and stuff like that. And I'm like, your kid in like 20 years is this Facebook's going to be here and
Mhm.
your kid's going to want a job and somehow someone's going to look them up or look up their parents or look and see all these things that you've probably said about your child and like can we
Yeah.
can we stop exploiting the children? We don't need to share everything. Funny stories, cute photos, cool, but
Mhm.
like yeah, stop exploiting your children.
Somebody in the chat said, we always monitor our children's use on their cell phones. They had to give us passwords or they didn't have use of their phone.
Oh well, yeah,
Yeah.
my kids, we pay for their phones. We get I don't believe
Yeah.
in privacy.
It's
I
not
do,
there.
I do. Okay, but and we're gonna go way off topic if I get into this, but like, no, they're my kids in my home, and we're paying for them to have cell phones, and they don't have to have cell phones, and kids don't need privacy to an
Mhm.
extent. They need some, they need some privacy, but as far as their phones and their social lives and their friends, like, no, I get to know everything, and that is how I protect my children.
Fair enough. Um, Education. Several education bills were signed into law this year, ranging from rules to protect young people from being outed against their will, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Uh, Rules that require elementary schools to offer free menstruation products. You can tell I don't say that word too often. Other new laws cover what is taught in the classroom, including a bipartisan measure that ensures students are being taught accurately how Native Americans in California were treated during the Gold Rush era and the Spanish colonization of California. Okay.
I'm not opposed to that because truth should be taught, but every child matures differently and not everyone's ready for what that
I
entails.
Yeah, I think I'm a big history buff. Learn all the history, you know? The
Yeah,
good, the bad, and the ugly. I think the
absolutely.
problem with a lot of history is like revisionist history, where history teachers will go back and teach their version of history when it's not the accurate version of history. Like, just tell the whole version, and let people figure out like from themselves. Don't mislead them and don't leave stuff
Right,
out.
and then you expand on the gory details as they get older. Yes,
Yeah,
we need to know those things for sure, but,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I
Um,
first graders don't need to, like, hear about, oh, white people raped Indians. Like, it's not
well, it's
appropriate.
interesting that they're also going to be talking about Spanish colonization because yes, that's European, but I mean, that eventually became the territory of Mexico. So, I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole here, but um, it'd be interesting to see how they'll probably flip the Spanish colonization into like a white European horrible thing, and white Europeans are bad. All right, e-bikes. I have an issue with e-bikes. I guess I'm getting old. I'm like those darn kids on their e-bikes scooting around everybody. Um, they have.
Shake your cane at them.
I'm now 90 years old. That's what's happened between 2024 and 2025.
A
I've
long
aged over 50 years. California law already has speed guidelines for e-bikes. For example, a class 1 bike has a motor that kicks in when a rider is pedaling and tops out at 20 miles an hour. Class 3 motor is meant to stop at 28 miles an hour. Those things go pretty quick. Like if you're in one of the neighborhoods like PB or one of those areas, those things come flying at you because the cars don't even go 30 miles an hour down the street, but e-bikes are flying by you. Modifying the speed of e-bikes is already illegal and unsafe. Assembly member Diane Dixon, a Republican from Newport Beach, said in analysis of her bill. The new law specifically bans the sale of products that can make the alterations. Good for you, Diane.
no, they need to probably crack down on those more. Um, my local Facebook group, every single day there's a post about how kids were almost hit because they're just flying into the streets on them. It's dark, it's nighttime, and they're just like they're wearing dark clothing and they're not paying attention. They're not following the rules of the stoplights and stop signs and everything.
Mm,
And like every day there's literally a new story, and people all the pediatricians on there are like, as a pediatrician or some lawyer will come in as a lawyer who's represented these cases, these need to stop. Like there's always stuff like that. So yeah, there needs to be more. They need to crack down more on those. I'm with you. Also
yeah,
shaking
I'm
my cane.
old man shaking cane at the clouds. I can say it now because we don't live there anymore. But when we lived over in PB, we lived across from a school, and when the school let out, there was obviously a bunch of kids who had e-bikes, and it was just like pandemonium. Like it was just e-bikes everywhere. Kids like jump like two at a time, riding the pegs on the back of the e-bike. It was just like this can't be safe. Like 20 kids on e-bikes with no helmets just riding off into PB, and you're like, this is gonna end bad for somebody. Um, and then shake my fist at him from my old apartment. Be like, where are you kids? Eviction notices. California law originally dictated that a landlord could not file an eviction lawsuit until after serving their tenant with a 3-day notice, which excludes Saturdays, Sundays, and judicial holidays to pay. Tenants then had 5 days after they were served to file their defense in court. If they failed to do so, a judge could award a default judgment to the landlord. The new law doubles the 5-day window to 10 days. I mean, okay. I've known what are called unlawful detainer. That's the fancy word for eviction attorneys. Unlawful detainer when they need to kick people out. It is a stressful practice because you have to move so fast. Um, I don't think they would really care about this, but I don't know. 5 day to 10 days. It's not. I mean, they've doubled it, but it's still hard if you're a tenant who is on back rent, or like you can't pay your back rent and you have to go run out and find an
Right.
attorney. So, um, 5 days, 10 days, I think it's still tough to defend against these evictions. Fertility treatment. Certain insurers must cover fertility treatments, including in vitro fertilization in 2025. Um, that sounds like a familiar platform, Peg. I wonder where we heard that before.
Isn't this
This
for companies that only employ 100 plus employees?
Is that what it is? Because it
I
says
believe
this
so.
law, which won't take effect until July 2025, will require a large group healthcare service plans to cover three oxite egg retrievals. It also prohibits healthcare service plans from imposing different conditions or coverage limitations on fertility medications or services. So it's for large plans, like large employers. Is that what you're
I
saying?
believe that, yeah, if it's 100 plus employees on the healthcare plan.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I could see that that would probably make sense. I read it as large group healthcare service like Kaiser, Sharp.
Yeah, okay.
That's how I read it. If you're on one of like
I
those plans, they can't deny you.
I'm gonna have to check now, but I believe I read somewhere else that it was like employers of 100 plus.
Mhm.
So
That makes sense. I mean, usually you're buying that in bulk and it's probably I mean, I'm sure the healthcare lobbyists probably got in there and were like, "Look, we'll capitulate, but it's got to be for really big plans where we can still make money on it." And they're like, "Nah, okay." Um, medical debt. Medical debt will no longer be shared with credit reporting agencies, meaning a debt will not show up on their credit reports.
I
Okay.
agree.
Yeah, I don't think.
Understand, but I agree. People medical emergencies happen and not everybody has
Yeah,
the funds on hand, and then to make it worse for your living conditions because you need credit for other things. It's just, yeah, I agree with this bill.
yeah. I think your credit score should reflect intentional decisions you've made. Like
Yeah,
you've decided to take out 40 credit cards and max them all out, then yeah, then you should have a bad credit score. And if you're not paying them, but like you said, like there's sometimes something happens and there's nothing else you can do, and you're like, I have to pay this somehow. So here we are. Like, um, it's not a bad idea. Look at that. We've reached across the aisle and we found something we agree on
oh
with
yeah,
California.
which I want to point out, most of these laws, I know we're going to get to a couple, but like 98% of these laws were passed by Democrats, I guess, or not passed by Democrats. They were authored by Democrats. Uh,
Right.
because one, they often won't even hear Republican bills, and then
Mhm.
of course they're the supermajority, so they're not going to pass Republican bills. So
Right. Well, Diane Dixon got one through,
she
so good
did. She
for her.
got a few through. There's
I guess
and I know we're going to get to like a big one that was Republican. Yeah.
um, parking near crosswalks, which I had just heard people talking about in the past couple of days, because I guess it's gone into effect. Uh, Parking near crosswalks starting in 2025, motorists could be ticketed for parking within 20 feet of a crosswalk, even if there is no sign posted. The no parking zone decreases to 15 feet if there is a curb extension present.
And what is the reason for this? Genuine question.
I actually have no idea why this is like, it's going to make it even tougher, like in downtown areas, to go find parking because
Right, because
that's
that's probably
pretty
20
big.
feet, then you're gonna have, like, uh, why did I just lose my train the word, what's the have fire hydrant, and then you can't
Oh,
park
yeah.
with, like, within a certain amount of feet of that, and so now
Yeah.
they're, like, cutting off entire sections of, like, you can't park here.
Yeah. And now everyone's got to remember what 20 feet is. I don't know. Is your car 20 feet? Is that like a car length is 20 feet?
Cars are
So,
20 feet. I mean, maybe
yeah,
really big ones.
have to be like a really big. Um, but now people have to like mentally think like, is this 20 feet from a crosswalk?
I just wanna know the reasoning, 'cause, I mean, whether or not we agree with the reasoning, I still just I'm curious why they are doing this.
No idea. I actually haven't looked into it. Why this is such a big deal? I can't think of one fathomable reason why. Is it b- Maybe because if you park too close to a crosswalk and you cross, you people can't see you at the crosswalk, so it's dangerous. Is that possible? Like,
So
because if you're at a crosswalk and you're standing behind a car and then someone's coming up and then it's like,
what's up?
I don't know. It's
What
just
is even
another
happening
nanny.
here?
It's just a nanny state thing. Again, they send 1,000 bills to Newsom and he signs them, and this is what we get: crosswalks. All right, now on to diving into a little bit more of some of the more substantive ones, cannabis cafes, entertainment zones are coming to a city near you. Uh, Senate Bill 969, authored by, you guessed it, our
Look,
favorite party animal, Senator Scott Wiener, will let local governments designate entertainment zones where bars and restaurants can sell alcoholic beverages for people to drink on public streets and sidewalks. Some organizations, such as California Alcohol Policy Alliance, oppose SB 969 because it could contribute to drunk driving accidents and increased alcohol mortality rates. So that's different. That's certain entertainment zones where you're outside and you can walk around. I guess it's kind of like the
it wasn't
strip.
this like legal in San Francisco, but he wanted all of California to
Yeah, it was kind of like
this.
pilot program in San Francisco. They tried it out, and now I guess anywhere in California you can. There's certain areas that can be designated. It's local government, so it'll be up to the cities to figure out where they, if they even want to have them. They may not. Some places might not even implement them. Um, let's see. The other bill is AB 1775 legalizes Amsterdam style cannabis cafes, allowing lounges to also sell food and drinks that aren't prepackaged. After opposition from the American Heart and Lung Association, Newsom's veto of a similar bill in 2022, AB 1775 includes additional protections for workers against secondhand smoke. Quote, lots of people want to enjoy legal cannabis in the company of others. Bill author, Assemblymember Matt Haney, also a San Francisco Democrat, said in a statement, quote, and many people want to do that while sipping coffee or eating a sandwich or listening to music. There's no doubt that cannabis cafes will bring massive economic, cultural, and creative opportunities and benefits to our states. I think he's kind of overestimating how much it's actually going to help our state. But I mean, again, I don't want to sound like an old man shaking my fist at the sky. Could be good in certain neighborhoods, like in San Francisco, if that's like what they want and they want to do that. Sure. I don't think your rationale, they want to enjoy cannabis while sipping coffee or eating sandwich or listening to music, means you can't just do that anywhere, like in the
But what
privacy of
if
your
like
own
what if there's
home.
other things that I want to do while sipping coffee and snacking with friends? Should we just legalize all of it? I mean, I don't really care, but I'm just saying that's just such a weird like okay. But
Yeah, like Matt Haney went, he was at a nice cafe in San Francisco somewhere, and he's sitting there going, man, what I wouldn't give for a big fat joint right now, like just to get really blitzed and high. Like is that what Matt Haney was thinking? Like he'd love to just be high, enjoying this cup of coffee or reading a book or something.
well,
I don't know.
he probably was high when he authored that, but
I
I don't
I
feel like
wouldn't
it's
know.
the world's biggest deal, but it is laughable. That's all.
Right.
I
And I
would
know
like
they always
go
the-
ahead.
like I'm not against it. I don't care. Like I think, you know, you do you. It's cannabis. It's a lot of people enjoy it. I'm not a curmudgeon anyway against cannabis. But I feel like they make such a big deal about like they think cannabis and like this whole industry is gonna explode. And it hasn't. Like, and that's so not to get really off topic, but when we legalized, and I can't remember what prop it was, it's escaping me now. Nah, I can't remember. Anyway, Prop 40 or something. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to look this up. When they legalized recreational cannabis in California, the whole point, like people were saying, it's going to be good for the economy. Like
Right.
imagine the green rush. They called it the green rush, like the gold rush. It's going to be the green rush of how many people are going to spend millions and millions of dollars to invest and build dispensaries. And it's going to create a whole industry of different workers and employees. Are going to create jobs and all this stuff. And they passed it, and the government effectively killed the golden goose before it laid even one egg. Like they came up with state taxes, they came up with regulations, they came
Of
up with
course.
zoning. It got to the point where like if you wanted to build in LA, just to make, there were 5 rounds of applications. Each round cost you $30,000 to apply. Like, okay, what was LA's reasoning for making it $30,000 for 4 or 5 application phases
Did they like
to
see the
get to
writing
the
on
end
the
one?
wall that this wasn't going to happen, but at least get their fair share before it? Like,
Yeah, I guess, and they like choked it out before it could even become like it. It was supposed to be this huge thing. It was supposed to be the big thing. It was like California finally legalized recreational weed. Like it makes sense now. They can now like farmers can grow it, and like it was this whole like top down philosophy. That's how they sold it. And now they're kind of selling this again of like, well, if we now just allow people to smoke in cafes or enjoy it in a cafe, it's going to create this huge booming economy. It's like, all right, bud, like it's not going like it's not going to create this big booming economy. It's just like you're just misleading people as to why you're doing this. Um,
okay,
I
so now
don't know.
Matt Haney got this passed so that he can go get high with his friends while enjoying a coffee and a sandwich.
Yeah,
And
I mean, look,
in like
if
2 years, Senator Scott Wiener is going to be like, I would also like to add nudity to this because sunbathing with my friends is fun, and I would like
oh
to
yeah,
make my well nude in public.
yeah, I would also like these entertainment zones where you can drink on public streets to
Naked.
also be where the cannabis cafes are. And I think clothing should be optional.
For sure. I feel like he's
That
already authored that so many times, and now he's just getting
uh,
little pieces. But I
I'm
want to
afraid
go
we might
back
have
to
given him a new
the
idea.
the daylighting is what they call it law, the parking within 20 feet of
Okay.
the crosswalk. So you can be fined. Fines, I think, start at $65. Violating the law, 65 plus a 12.50 administration fee. And the reason is this law aims to improve pedestrian safety by daylighting intersections, making it easier for drivers to see pedestrians and other vehicles. So I think that's what you basically said.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I imagine it had something to do with safety.
Well,
There was this clip that I completely forgot about, and I want to watch real quick because it fits so perfect. And like now that it's out of place, um, I feel kind of dumb because it was in my outline. But I have
okay.
we have to watch this because we're making jokes about why are there so many damn laws that they have to pass. Um, and suffice it to say, I found a video where I actually agree with Governor Moonbeam on something. If you don't know who Governor Moonbeam is, he was former Governor Jerry Brown, twice Governor Jerry Brown. He did an interview and they talked about why are there so many damn bills. So let me pull that up.
The speaker during this last swearing in ceremony a couple of weeks ago. He gave a speech and it was titled Renewing the California Dream. And he talked about cutting the amount of bills that lawmakers can introduce from 50 to 35 and told lawmakers when you're introducing a bill, think about Californians because they sent us a message in this last election. They're not happy. They don't like the way the state is going. So think about them as a governor. And I have to say, your veto notes were famous. I loved reading them. Do you think do you think that's a right move? Do you think lawmakers were allowed to introduce too many bills and that cutting that back is
Without
better?
question, I'd go way below 35. I'd go 5, maybe. 5.
5 bills.
Well, what we have, let me just give you an example.
I'd just like to say thank you, Governor Moonbeam, for saying some sort of sanity. Well done. 5. I love the number 5. I think that's a great number for us to have our bills at.
And
I don't
also
think there's
go back to our conversation that we had at the GOP convention in San Francisco was that already like May of last year? When was that? When
I
were,
don't know.
I don't know. It was almost a year ago or 6 months ago, 7 months ago, but we had this kind of similar conversation. And
Should be 5. I think you should be capped at 5. And if you want more, you can bargain with another legislator and work with something. But other than that, I don't think you should have that many bills. 35 is still a lot of bills. But what else does he say?
Example. the education code is about 13 volumes, depending upon how it's being published. There are 10,000 separate legal provisions in the California Education Code, all coercive prescriptions telling administrators and teachers what to do and what not to do. I mean, it's insane. There are too many laws. Now, I signed myself probably 16,000, and what is not easily.
I'm sorry. He says there's too many laws, and then he admits that he signed 16,000.
Why
Like,
didn't you just sign like 5 a year, buddy?
he could have just been like, I'm just going to sign, this is my cap. I'm going to sign this many laws.
Like read them and be like, these 5 this year, better luck next year.
Yeah, I think you are part of the problem.
Appreciated. When you sign a law, you often spawn a series of regulations. And if you think of our society as caught up in a dense thicket of regulatory coercion, you can understand. You'll say, "Wow, we got enough of that." So let's slow it down. There are too many laws. Montaigne, by the way, in one of his famous essays, was talking about France. He said there are too many laws. He said before we used to suffer from crimes, now we suffer from laws, and I think that's worth thinking about.
Note.
Yeah, well said. Never thought I would say that about Governor Moonbeam, but I think he's 100% correct. 5 would be a good idea.
Yeah, well, speaking of agreeing with people we don't agree with, there's actually a Scott Wiener law bill that I agree with that we haven't. Maybe you're going to get to it. I don't know.
Which one is that one?
I don't remember the number, but it has to do with. I guess there was a law or rule of sorts that if someone breaks into a car to steal stuff and the car wasn't locked, I think like the penalties were now increases the penalties for like whether or not the car was locked. And I agree with that.
I think his law was before it was if someone broke into your car, you had to prove that it was locked.
Yeah, something like that.
For it to be a burglary. So the burden was on you to prove it was, and it's like, dude, somebody broke into my car and stole my stuff.
Right. They don't have the right to do that, whether the car has locks or cinder blocks around it. Like,
yeah. Does that, by that logic, is it okay if someone leaves their door open, you can just walk into their house and just steal everything? And they're like, well, it wasn't a burglary. Door was open. They're like, nah, you got me. You rapscallion, you little whippersnapper. Yeah, I agree with that one.
I agree with that. Like, absolutely. No one had a right to your stuff.
Yeah. See, we're fair here. We give credit where credit is due. Good job, Scott Wiener. Just, don't do any naked entertainment zones with cannabis or whatever.
We're giving him ideas. He's watching this and he's literally
he's watching this going. He's gonna writing this down right now, going naked entertainment zones. All right. This next one was probably one of the most controversial this year. AB 1955 was passed, and it came in response to a handful of school boards adopting policies that require teachers and other school staff to notify parents if a student identifies as a gender other than what's on their school records. Quote, teachers can still talk to their parents, Governor Newsom said at a press conference on Monday, in which he touted a new plan to improve career opportunities for adults. What they can't do is fire a teacher for not being a snitch. I don't think teachers should be gender police.
I feel like the interpretation of this law changes every time a Democrat talks about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the rationale changes every single time that they do this. Like, first it was, I think it was we had Dr. Balkian on, who was running for Congress, and he was talking about this law. First it was, well, they don't want to put the children in harm's way because if they go home to a family that doesn't accept them, and then now it's we don't want the teachers to be gender police, but you kind of are requiring them to be gender police because now they have to ask and find out about gender. Like, it's just a weird.
Right. And they could be like, oh, it's just the government trying to stay out of your family life, actually. It's like it just keeps every time someone talks about it, they literally change what it is.
Yeah, because it's requiring teachers to hold on to a secret from the kid's parents that, okay, so the teacher knows about this kid's personal and intimate life and the parents don't know about this stuff. Like,
Apparently, so does the school, because if you're going by a different gender, a different name, then so are your peers are expected to keep
yeah,
up with that.
right. It's a weird, this one's definitely very controversial. I feel like we've talked about this one a lot. We've had
Yes,
I think we had a whole episode on it.
many
Um,
probably.
we brought, yeah. So
I
this
feel
one
like
definitely
we've
controversial.
had a whole episode on it, and then every time we brought on an assembly member, they would talk about it because it
Yeah,
was
it was always, this was the firebrand this year. This was definitely the one that like caught a lot of ire and a lot of people talking about it. Uh, Article goes on to say opponents of the new law said that parental notification policies actually strengthen ties between students and parents. And schools should not withhold information on such important matters. Like we're saying, like it shouldn't be the school's decision on what they withhold from their parents. Even through a parental notification measure that would have applied to all schools failed to qualify for the ballot, opponents vowed to keep fighting. Quote, this law doesn't clarify anything and nothing prevents individual teachers from bringing the issue up with parents, said Roseville School Board member Jonathan Zackerson. Hey, Jonathan, good friend of the show. An organizer of the failed ballot measure and whose district was among those that passed parental notification policy. So, quote, the battle continues. And this is sort of, this is a culmination, this and another law that was just passed uh, regarding state law banning voter IDs. This is like a backlash from Sacramento about localities and their control. So, like a lot of conservative cities and school boards, and I think this is the way to go. I think like a lot of conservatives are saying, well, we're not winning at the state level, we're not winning in the legislature, but we can win at local things. We can win at school board. We can win at mayor and city council, and we can pass these things. And I think that's how it should be. I think everything should be decentralized and more local as possible because California is just so damn big anyway. Like it's hard to just put one blanket policy for everybody in California and be like, this fits for everybody. It's like, yeah, it may fit for you up in the Bay Area or in LA, but it doesn't fit for Roseville or Redding or the Inland Empire. Like it doesn't fit those people. So this is the battle that we're seeing between localities versus the state government. Again, for people who love democracy, they don't seem to like democracy when it disagrees with them. So, any thoughts?
no, like you say, we've kind of hashed that so many times. So
Let's see. One last thing. Oh, this is the one. Let me pull this one up. Prop 36, which obviously that's a big one that's going into effect this year. Talked about that a lot. Let's see. More taxes. That's always fun. California workers will soon have a little more money taken out of their paycheck by the state. This is from KCRA. California workers will have a little more money withheld from their paychecks starting in January 2025 because a small tax increase quietly approved by state officials to provide more money to the state's disability insurance program. A spokesman for California Employment and Development Department, which administers and oversees the program, confirmed the SDI rate will increase from 1.1% to 1.2%. That means a couple or individual with $100,000 in taxable annual wages will have $100 more total withheld from their pay this upcoming year. Um, and this is due to the fact that they need to pay more to pay off that loan. If I'm
oh,
that we
which
took
loan
out,
would that be?
that would be the big federal loan that they took out in COVID
Oh,
to
wait,
pay for all.
wait. So this is the employment insurance that they're in debt? Is that one?
Oh, actually, nope. I got this. There was a different loan. Um, that loan is being paid back by businesses. So
Oh, that's right.
businesses have to pay
Business
that back.
also get to pay. Okay.
Um,
This is personal. That one's business. Okay. Sorry.
this has nothing to do with that loan. It says, quote, the state disability insurance program is funded by workers. In 2025, the amount of benefits an eligible worker can receive will be going up to better support working families so Californians can take time off, work to recover from injury or illness, or care for a loved one. State law allows the EDD and its director, Nancy Farias, to raise the rate based on a complicated formula by small amounts. A spokesperson for the department did not say when exactly the decision was made. So there you go. The head of it just decided we're going to raise it. And that's the problem when you give this much power to unelected bureaucrats. So we're coming up on the hour. We had some other stuff we want to cover. Maybe we'll cover in next week's episode. As always, we always pack our outlines full of stuff and then we don't end up getting to all of it. So
SB, I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, 1414, Shannon Grove, sex trafficking.
right.
That was a big
That-
one that passed, which of course we've spoken about it endlessly.
Mhm.
And now I'm forgetting all the details of it, but it has to do with, I think, increasing from like a misdemeanor to a felony if you trafficked like a 15, under 15. I'm sorry.
Makes it a felony to
sound like I-
purchase or solicit a child 15 years and younger for sex. It was previously a misdemeanor before the bill was signed into law. Prosecutors will have discretion when determining how to charge someone who purchases a 16 or 17-year-old for sex. Discretion? I don't know why you would need any discretion for purchasing.
I don't understand that part. Like, as much as I'm glad that we passed this bill, I'm like, no, make it more. This is where I want more.
Yeah, this one I feel like you throw the book at people. Like there's no discretion at all when you're buying minors for sex, and it's just disgusting. So,
But you're buying it for sex.
but that one, yeah, this was the one that Shannon Grove passed. I think this is the one that they got a lot of backlash over, right? That they like killed in committee, and then
like arguments in the hall, and then it was people made phone calls like mad, and then Newsom had to kind of cave and get everyone to get behind it. Which is great.
That's how you got to do it. All
I
right.
just wish it were more. That's all.
Yeah,
it's a start.
It's a start, but I mean the fact that it was a misdemeanor is absolutely terrifying and sad. I mean it should be.
Which I did want to kind of talk about that briefly. Not just that, but passing a Prop 36 again, so wonderful. But so much of this focuses on like retail theft and stuff. And I want to see these disgusting, horrific crimes. Like I want to see those get, like these, like I just feel like if you traffic, you buy a child, you need to spend your life in prison. Like that's where like you're done. Go like you shoot somebody for no reason, you or kill somebody for no reason, like you go away. You just don't belong in society anymore. You and God can have it out, but like you and society are done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're buying minors for sex, there is no room for discretion. I think it's you. There's no. I don't know.
Like
That
there's
is
zero tolerance with some of these things, and then I feel like if there is zero tolerance, then I think we're going to actually see it drop off because people are like, oh, well, they're actually serious, and I don't really want to spend my life in prison for doing such a stupid thing.
Yeah, slowly but surely, we're chipping away at it, but it's a step in the right direction. But hopefully, maybe she'll introduce another law, make it even stricter, and then it'll get more national attention. So that's all we can hope. Any other laws that we missed that you want to bring up?
I'm sure we missed so many, but no.
There's a lot of laws.
There's 1017. So
Yeah, we didn't cover a lot. I don't even think we hit more than 10 of them. Yeah, so those are some of the laws coming to California. Obviously, moral of the story is this: these laws take a long time from now when they start drafting them and introduce them to get to where they are to going into effect. And we do our best to kind of keep you updated. We do our best to kind of tell you where it is in committee and stuff like that. If there's something you find out about, I mean, we're going to keep people informed of any bills like the one that we just discussed, SB 1414 or AB 1955. Like these are important bills. We'll keep you updated all year long. we usually do a legislative roundup halfway through the year to see where the bills are in committee. So you can be like, okay, are they going through committee? Are they not going to make it? Oh, the one thing that we didn't mention was, um, this is probably for looking ahead episode at 2025. But anyway, some reparations bills were passed last year. More are on the horizon. I'll leave it at that. So anyway, we'll keep you updated. This is things that you can follow the process. These laws don't pop out of nowhere. They don't just pop up, they don't just sprout from Scott Wiener's office and then get signed by Gavin Newsom immediately. They have to go through a process, which gives us the benefit of contacting representatives or assemblymen, your state senators, putting pressure on them. And as we saw with SB 1414, like, the pressure works. Public pressure does work on a lot of these politicians. You may not think so, but public pressure does work on a lot of these politicians. So, moral of the story is we have a long year ahead of us. I'm sure it's going to get crazy. Trump being inaugurated in a couple of weeks. It's the Resistance 2.0 in California. It's going to be fun. All right. With that said, any final thoughts?
No.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Well, I always like to make sure I don't cut you off. Maybe you had a final thought.
I know you do. So, and I
yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to just
never
launch into the end of the show and be like, okay, see you later.
You do. You always ask me, and I appreciate it. And I always just say no, but sincerely, thank you for asking. But no.
Yeah. All right. And with that, thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, review. Helps with the algorithm. Helps people find us on YouTube and places like that. And the best thing you can do with this show and support this show, if you like it, is go share it with a friend. That is 100% free. And with that, we will see you on the next one. Everybody have a good night. Later.